Hello class, we're about to start section 3.1, a topic of interest. Our learning objectives are to define interest and understand related terminology, to develop simple interest formulas, and to use simple interest formulas to analyze financial issues. As stated here in our syllabus, section 3.1 will be on page 206, problems 1 through 4, page 208, 1 through 8, page 210, 1 through 7, and if time is permitting, we will do page 214 as well. Now, we will flip the page to page 206. It says interest is a fee for the use of money. For example, if you borrow money from a bank to buy a car, you must not only pay back the amount of money that you borrowed, but also an additional amount called the interest for the use of the bank's money. On the other hand, if you deposit money in a savings account, the bank will pay you interest for saving money, since it will be using your money to provide loans, mortgages, etc. to people who are borrowing money. The stated rate of interest is generally given as a yearly percentage of the amount borrowed or deposited. There are two kinds of interest. Simple interest is paid strictly as a percentage of the original amount of money. Compound interest is a percentage of an original amount, as well as a percentage of the new amount, including previously calculated interest. We will study simple interest in this lesson and compound interest in the next. Let's say that you get a $600 tax refund and you wisely decide to put it into a long-term investment that pays 5% in simple interest each year. How much money would that add to the account each year? Remember, with simple interest, a certain percentage of an original amount is added to the account. So, if we look here, we have $600 times 5%, which is 600 times 0.05, and that's equal to $30 for the year. Now, if we go down here to number 2, also here with number 1, it's stated here that it pays us 5% in simple interest each year. Now for number 2, it says write out the multiplication you did to get your answer to question 1. The next goal is to write a general formula for computing the amount of interest earned. Substitute the letter P for the original amount invested, 600, and the letter R for the percentage you multiplied by, written in decimal form, of course. So we have our $600 times our 5%, and that gave us $30. So 600 is our original amount, so we will substitute that in for P. 0.05 is our rate of interest. We'll substitute that in for R. And then $30 is our interest, which is equal to our interest. Now, we move on to problem 3 on page 207. It says fill in the following table which shows the growth of the account over several years, as well as the total amount of interest earned. You'll need a correct answer to question 1. And remember that this is simple interest, so the interest earned each year is always calculated on the original value of the investment. So, the value of the account is $600. We already multiplied on the previous page, on page 206, it told us we got $30 in interest. So now, after year 1, we will get $30, and our value of our account would be $630 because that would include the original amount we put in. Now, after 2 years, we will have a total of $60 in interest, and our account would be $660. 3 years, it would be $90, and our account would be $690. 4 years, it would be $120, so it would be $750. 5 years, it would be $150, and that would give us $750. I wrote the wrong thing here by mistake. This was supposed to be $720, and this is $750. Now, after 10 years, it would be $300 in interest earned, and our account would be $900. Now, it says here, for number 4, look carefully at the first and second columns of your table. What is the relationship between the number of years that have passed and the total interest earned? The total interest is the interest from the first year times the number of years. Which we can see here. First year was $30. Second year, we'd take 2 times 30 is 60. Third year to be 3 times 30 is 90. Fourth year, 4 times 30 is 120, and so on. So this is how we attained our values. So now, we're done with problem number 4. So we go down here to the bottom. We have, in the group portion of this lesson, you actually develop formulas for computing simple interest, whether you realized it or not. Now let's formalize what we discovered. In order to compute simple interest, we need exactly 3 pieces of information: the principal, the rate, and the time. The box below describes the terminology we'll use as well as the letters we'll use to represent the key data. Interest is capital I, is a fee charge for use of money. Principal, capital P, is the amount of money borrowed or placed into a savings account. The rate R is the percent of the principal paid for having money loaned or earned for invested money. Unless indicated otherwise, rates are given as a percent for a term of 1 year. Time, which is T, or term, is the length of time that the money is being borrowed or invested. When the rate is given as a percent per year, time has to be written in years. And then finally, future value, A, is the amount of the loan or investment plus the interest paid or earned. So, we go over here to problem number 1. First the directions. It says, in the work we did in the group portion, the principal was P equals $600. The rate was 5% written as a decimal, which is R equals 0.05. The amount of time varied when filling out the table of interest and future value. Okay, now, it says in question 2, you should have discovered that the formula for computing the interest in 1 year is P times R. Use this in your answer to question 4 to write a formula for finding the amount of interest I that accumulates in T years. So the interest is the principal times the rate times time. That is the formula they're actually asking for here. Because we already had the principal and the rate, but it was assumed our time was 1 year. So we have principal times rate times time. Now, the total value of the account after T years, which we're calling future value and representing with the letter A, is calculated by adding the total amount of interest to the principal amount. Use your answer to question 1 above to write a formula for future value in terms of P, R, and T. So we would take the principal plus the interest, which is principal plus principal times rate times time. Now, some other times you may see this as principal plus interest, but typically you will look at it as this here. Now, we go on to problem number 3. Now, with problem number 3, it says use the formula from question 2 to find the future value of your original $600 investment at 5% interest in 30 years. So, we will use the formula. A is equal to the principal plus the principal times rate times time. A is equal to 600 plus 600. The rate is 5%, which is 0.05. And the time is in years, so we will write it as 30. Now, once we put this in our calculator, this will give us $1,500. And this is our future value. Now, if we If we want to check this, we can do this by hand, but it'll be nice and easier for us to do it by calculator. Okay, now number 4. It says the right side of your answer to question 2 should be a sum, meaning that it has 2 terms. Use some algebra to rewrite the formula so that it has just one term. The result should look like the principal amount times the quantity. So basically, we will have A is equal to P plus P times RT. So writing it as one term, we will factor out a P, and that will leave us 1 plus RT. Now, again, terms are separated by addition or subtraction. This right here is considered to be one term because P is multiplied to this parenthesis. Now, we move on to question 5 on page 209. It says, here's a summary of the formulas we've built to describe simple interest. Interest is equal to principal times rate times time. Future value is equal to principal plus interest, which we have here, the 2 formulas here. It says number 5, to meet payroll during a down period, United Ceramics Incorporated needed to borrow $2,000 at 4% simple interest for 3 months. Without doing any calculation, make an educated guess as to how much interest you think would be due. Now, it's 4% interest in the 3 months. Now, if we look at a whole year is 12 months. So, if we take 3 divided by 12, that would give us a fourth. So 3 months is a fourth of a year. So if we take that fourth and multiply by the 4%, we don't have to change this to a decimal. This will end up giving us 4% over 4. Now, if we divide this out, this would give us 1%. Now it says make an educated guess as to how much interest you think would be due. So we know it's going to be about 1%. So we would take this 1% and multiply it by the $2,000. Because remember, our formula is interest is equal to principal times rate times time. So we don't know what our interest is, but we do know that our P would be 2,000. Our rate here would be 1%. And our time, we would just still put it as 1. So we would end up having $20 as our final answer. Or we could have just took 1% times the 2,000, and that would give us $20. Now, number 6. It says, now use formulas to find the interest they paid and the future value at the end of 3 months. Hint, how many years does 3 months correspond to? So this is what we would do. We're going to take interest is equal to principal times rate times time. Okay, so now we will substitute. We will have our 2,000 for the principal. The rate, we're going back up here to 4%, which is 0.04. And the time. When we got this 1/4 here, this is 1/4 of a year. Time is always in a year. So that would be times the 1/4. So going back up here to number 5, we didn't need this portion here. We just needed to change this 1% to 0.01 times 2,000, which would have given us $20. Just to correct that. Now we come back here to number 6. When we put this in our calculator, this would give us $20. Now they also want us to get the future value. So remember, the future value is A is equal to the principal plus the interest. Or we could write the P times 1 plus R times T. The principal was 2,000. The interest was $20. So our future value is $2,020. and we're done.